Hello and welcome to Muse Jam Session recording, I believe 186. My name is Dani Beaumont, and I'm a principal product manager on the Adobe Muse team. And from time to time, we present on different areas of focus for Muse. What we call them Muse Jam Sessions. I use the word we. For the most part, it's me, supported by the team. But we go into different areas focus with the product. And just for the heck of it, we haven't done this in a while. So let me show you a little bit around some of the help and support available for Muse. So if you go to muse.adobe.com, this is kind of a playground for the Muse team to share content easily without kind of the bigger Adobe getting in our way, so that we can quickly deliver content to you that allows you to understand the features that we're developing in the tool. So there's a terrific tutorials page. I know that I tend with each new release to do some quick video recordings. The last release was no exception. I think by my count, I had 7 new recordings showing off the latest features that we delivered in June for the product. In the Learn More area, we have some of the older recordings. So back in February, we delivered responsive design. That was a major release for us, and lots of help and support content there as well. We're going to focus today on integrating externalized content, data from a shopping cart within Muse, and that really brings you to the world of taking a widget and standard Adobe Muse and putting the two together. So I mentioned it in the Facebook Live session just about 10 minutes ago, but Muse is by design, I would say, and this design occurred over a few years of delivering the solution. We allow you to build out static websites using Adobe Muse. So that site can be a responsive design that works from everything from a desktop device down to a smartphone. It also can have scroll effects or interactive elements. You can play videos, for example, that might be uploaded with the content to your site. But more often when you're looking at the web, a lot of the content you see on a site is actually data that is dynamically injected into a site. So the simplest example is a Google map. When you go to your local coffee shop and you want to know where they're located, if you happen to need driving directions and you click on a Google map, Google is not downloading the entire Google Earth server onto your machine, onto your phone, onto your client's machine. What they're doing is very quickly sending little snippets of data that are queries to that larger Google Earth server and injecting it into a static website in the area of that map. The Widget Director, there are over 1,000 widgets now that work within Muse, and they are in many, many cases examples of how you can inject that dynamic data from many different sources and skin and style control the look of that data on your Muse website. I think it's incredibly powerful. If you come and look, let's say we just wanted to add an e-commerce solution to our site, and I went into the widget directory and selected e-commerce. The thing that's amazing to me is every time you look at the widget directory, there are more and more different solutions to pretty much the same problem. So all of these widgets allow you to integrate externalized shopping solutions with Muse. What I've found, and I learned this years ago as a product manager working with clients, is the right answer with your customer is always whatever they define is the right answer. So if you're working with a small business owner, let's say it's Katie of Katie's Cafe, and Katie wants to sell her bakery goods. She wants to set up a catering aspect of her bakery, for example. It's incredibly difficult to train someone like Katie or Katie's minimum wage bakery staff to learn a sophisticated proprietary back-end system to manage her store. What's much easier is to approach her and see either if she has a solution already in place or what the skill set is of her staff. You may want to find a very simple shopping cart or a very sophisticated shopping cart. And when you're looking at e-commerce solutions, I think it really justifies more than any other integration of a third-party data source in Muse, the need to have that third-party data source. When you think about shopping carts, depending on the sophistication of your client and the products that are being sold in your solution, you have to manage that content, that data, an awful lot. So if we go, let me just jump in here to something. See if I can get my menu to behave with me here. Let's take a look at one of these pages coming up, folks. So let's say we did some of these. These are Muse websites that have been designed using the standard Muse application and extended with third-party integration with stores. So we have, for example, let's see, the Vintage Cosmetic Company. And you'll see that there are products here. I can see the products. I can get to a level of detail and the look and feel of the site. Notice the URL, the text that's being used, the Shop Now button. These are all native aspects of the Muse application. If I come in to take a quick view of one of these products, for example, notice that it's popping up here, but the look and feel is continuing to be very consistent with the rest of the site. So the typefaces, this pop-up that's here, I have the ability to add to a basket. If I come on in and do that, I'll add 2 items into the basket. I'm then offered the opportunity to go and take a look at a basket. So notice how very seamlessly what's happening here is I'm coming into a static Muse website that has products that have been skinned and styled. I can easily select those products and then jump into an e-commerce solution very seamlessly. Let's just kind of check, because this is why it's a jam session. We experiment together. If I come in and view the page source on this particular page, what I've done is seamlessly jumped into a shopping cart. And I can tell that, notice as I come in here, in this instance, I think we've got a WordPress backend. So I started out with a Muse website, and I'm jumping over to a WordPress backend to continue that transaction. If I jump back in again, let me just show you how that happened for a moment. You can tell this if you're trying to dissect it a little bit, usually by the URL of the site. So I've got a static website here built in Adobe Muse. If I click on any one product and come in and take a look at that view, I've jumped into, notice how it says shop in the URL now? I've jumped into a WordPress backend instance. Just one example for you. Another one, C'est la vie, or Naughty Baby here. So this is a site that is selling women's clothing. If I load up the landing page here. And it is, as I mentioned, it's a little tricky to see where the transitions happen. It's not always apparent. What is apparent is whenever I'm presenting to you, the internet decides to slow down. I just tested this like 20 minutes ago. Could be that I'm recording and projecting all at the same time. There we go. So I have a site here. And once again, if I come in and I view my page source, one way to tell if something's a Muse site is if I type in the word generator, I can see the version of Muse that was used. And I can tell that this page was built in Adobe Muse, even though it's not a source file that I've seen. But notice as I work through the site, I have different pages, different images I can work with here. I have the ability to go in and shop by clicking on the Shop Now button, which takes me into a category of items. Now, as a designer, based on the client that you're working with, you're going to want to make a decision about how much of your heavily designed Muse website content lives within Muse, and when do you want to sort of cut away to a shopping cart experience using a third-party tool like Shopify. The advantage of keeping a lot of your inventory in Muse is that you can really integrate the design of the page exactly the way you'd like. So I'm going to keep checking because I'm not familiar with, again, this person's work. I haven't seen it in about a year, in fact. So if I come in and say view page source again, I'll go in and find that generator bit. This is telling me that even the detailed page of the site is built within Muse. I can see that in here. If I click in to go in and begin a shopping experience, one more time, I'll come on in. Notice here, it's starting to look more like a cart. What this designer did is really extensively built out a shopping experience in Muse. So I'll be honest, everything I've looked at, from what I can tell, is built directly in Muse. You've got this idea of a nice little breadcrumb trail that's showing me where I am. I have a detailed view for the product. I have a gallery. So it has that shopping experience. It's heavily designed or controlled by the designer. chances are this client doesn't have such a huge inventory of products that it has to be changed all that dynamically. So at the point that I decide as a viewer of the site that I want to go ahead and buy something, notice that it says purchase on Reverly. And if I click that, it will take me out to an obviously very different experience. So this is a third-party store that's not necessarily integrated with Muse. I believe the only integration point in this site example is a link. Notice this explicit link that takes you to that exact product there in the site. If I go back, I can see I'm back in Adobe Muse here. Let's look at another integration that's a little deeper with Muse. I'm going to actually jump into the demo asset that we're going to use today. So let's see. Stepping back for a moment, I did work closely with Ali Pordelli of Cookie because we were approached by Shopify as an organization. They saw a lot of their customers working with Adobe Muse to build out the experience around their stores. And they proposed a partnership with us. If we would work with them, Ali Pordelli built out a widget for them that allows you to connect Adobe Muse into the widget, into the application, your website. I'm going to come in and actually copy a URL here. Not that you can't see it, but I'm going to put it into the chat. If you ask the Google, if you're watching a recording and you can't get to that link, if you search for Shopify Adobe Muse, what you'll find is there's a specific page that Shopify offers. And this page allows you to license the backend Shopify instance for use with Adobe Muse at a price of just $9 a month. So, and this is specific pricing that they've offered us. It's ordinarily $27 a month. But if you go to the Shopify page and the Adobe Muse area, there's this special bundle offer. So you can start with a 2-week free trial. And then when that trial expires, you can begin to pay for this back-end solution for $9 a month. Now let's take a look at how you actually integrate that solution into the Muse interface and some of the pros and cons as you do that work. Let's see. I have, again, in the spirit of learning content, I have a number of articles or tutorials that can help you get through this process. So let me go ahead and grab this for you as well. This is a link to a tutorial. I'm going to start sharing my screen again. Too much going on. My recording's still going. The world is all good. Let's try to go to the chat. I'm going to give you that link. All right, so this is a tutorial that steps you through what we're going to do a little bit today. And in it, you can come in and take a look at, you can download basically the Nomad Dreamer site, which is a finished version of a site that integrates a lot of widgets into it. You can see the live instance of the site. So let me go ahead and click on that in just a moment. And then we also give you a link to the Shopify button that allows you to create that 14-day free trial and integrate your own store with the front-end Muse application. Now, Ali Pordelli with the Shopify button widget has also gone in and given you a demo store that you can work with as well as you're experimenting and determining if this is a good solution for you. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Nomad Dreamers site. So as I mentioned, we built this out as a demonstration. Folks will say, can I add my own custom audio to a Muse site? Can I build out my own gallery? Can I have a contact form that allows me to upload a file or has multiple, more like a survey, a very detailed contact form? These are all examples of third-party integration opportunities. And one of them that we showcase here is the Shopify integration. And what you'll notice is as I work here, I've got products. So what I did is I built out this page and I'm showing an album. The idea is that Nomad Dreamers is a band and they have CDs, who does albums anymore, that can be purchased. And the way that you go about purchasing it is by way of this Shopify button. So what you'll notice is I'm going to click purchase here. And what happens is it's going to actually bring up a pop-up window. And in that pop-up window, I can have the Shopify experience. So as the demo gods are insisting here, it's taking me a bit of a second here to bring up this guy. Let's see what it's arguing with me about. Okay, there we go. So clicking that purchase button can take me to a collection of items. I can look at individual items here. I can select the item, look at a detailed view. So once again, I just want to point out for a moment, the site around here is built directly in Muse. This is actually a Shopify store instance that's been lightly styled to look like the actual Muse site. The advantage, and I'm going to slow this down and tease it out in just a second, but the advantage is that all of the inventory for the site is actually, if I go to the back button here, these items live in my Shopify existence. So I have 4 products. If I had 6 products or 10 products, they would come up in this window. Clicking on any one of those items, if I had an inventory attribute set up for the store, I could come in and show how many of these albums were left. When I add it into the cart, you'll notice that I can come in and check out, but the checkout is taking me directly to Shopify. So the skinning and styling, the look of the site is definitely getting more generically Shopify, but I have this external page that I can come in and shop with. So that's one of the options as you're working. It's also possible to bring all of this cart attributes directly into your website experience. So it's more of a pop-up within the solution. And there's a variation of how we can build that out together. So let's go ahead and look at how I went about building this guy out in Adobe Muse. I'm going to swing over to the Muse application, and I have each of these elements here. Let's go ahead and dissect what I did just a little bit. I'm going to go over to my library. So one of the things I did, move my little image out of the way here. One of the things I did is I went to, and I'll show you this, there's value to showing all this stuff. But notice in the Nomad Dreamers instance here, if I click on Shop, it takes me to the Shopify button. When I click Get It Here, it takes me to that button in the Adobe Widget Directory. You can preview the widget, which will show you that Nomad Dreamers site, and you can get the widget. Clicking Get This Widget will download that widget. And this is also available. Let me just see where this takes me. Okay, so I have the widget directly here. One thing I would encourage, I think that Ali Pordelli has actually updated this widget in the meantime. So maybe, Ali, you can throw in the URL to the latest version of your Shopify widget. I want to make sure it's more recent than this guy. So this one's here, but I think Ali has a slightly newer one. They're both free. You can work with them directly in the Muse application. Ali's probably given you a URL to that latest version. And if you're watching the recording, I'm going to go on in and make sure that what I just clicked on is also updated, but I don't think it's the current one. Now that I have that widget, what I can do is just go ahead and show it in the Finder and double click on it. What happens is double clicking on the widget will bring it into my library panel here as a widget that I can interact with. Now, I've gone in and taken one of Ali's widgets, the button widget. So notice this is the Shopify button widget, and linked it here on my site. Let me show you how I just do that really basically. So what I also did, sorry, I have to tease out all of the steps here, is assuming you're going through the full workflow, you'll want to go to Shopify and create their demo instance of the site. So if I come back here, go to Shopify, start your free trial, go ahead and click the Get Started button here, and you can start to build out an example Shopify store. I've done that. So if you look at, let me just see, I'm going to show you this view here. So this is my Shopify backend. I'm going to give you a recipe, and I'm going to be a little more structured about it. So the first thing you want to do if you know you want to integrate the store is probably build out the Muse website and understand where you want to add your products, what types of previews you'd like to have, how deeply integrated you want your store to be with your Muse website. If the products change really often, you're going to want to be very light touch. There are ways that you can have all your products live in Shopify and just show up as, in essence, an iframe or a preview of your product in the Muse site. That allows you to not have to change your source application very often and just allow your inventory to live in the Shopify side. If you want to heavily design your images, like that fashion site that we showed a little while ago, you can have more dependency on your product. So maybe you have a glamour shot, a detailed view of your item with a buy button. Once they know they want to buy it, then they jump into the Shopify side. Once I went in and created my Shopify store, I created individual products. So you'll probably want to learn about Shopify. It doesn't have to be Shopify. Again, I mentioned there's a good dozen different e-commerce solutions that Muse dovetails with. I'm just familiar with the Shopify instance. So I'm here and I went in and created a number of products. And if I click in and look at those products, you'll notice that each product has some description here. It's pretty simple. I have an image, so I just have one thumbnail. I've gone in, and this is where the world gets really fun and interesting. I have a price. I have the idea of transaction gateways. So if I want to sell this in many countries and many different currencies, Shopify is going to worry about that for me. Now, I do want to mention that setting up a Shopify store, as I mentioned, to have that storefront or that store back end, in essence, is $9 a month. From there, there is a charge for transactions. And I believe it's pretty comparable to something like PayPal. It's in the 1 to 2 percentage points for the transaction fee that's charged when you sell products using this store. But your small business owner does need to realize that there's such advantages to letting a Shopify-like backend manage your inventory. Being able to come in and keep track of how many units you have, being able to cross-sell. So for example, you may have a pair of socks that go really well with a particular shirt. You can cross-reference those or link those products together so that your viewer knows that there are companion products. You also can have sales. Let's say you decide you're going to do a Labor Day sale or a back-to-school fall sale. You can reduce the price on all of your inventory by setting a percentage discount or offering a coupon code that allows them to reduce the price. If you're trying to do this manually in a static website with Adobe Muse, it can be a lot of heavy lifting. It's not outlandish. Many of our viewers do like to control the experience and keep track of their inventory separately from their live site. And if need be, they can take items off their site manually. But this automated back-end way is just a really terrific way to kind of have a store experience. So I can expose this or make it visible by making sure I have this buy button checked. That's really important. That's the connection with the Adobe Muse widget. I also can have an online store. Now, in my case, I never have people go directly to the online store. I have a storefront, and you'll notice that in Shopify, I very loosely styled it. I basically took a theme or a template that was similar to the website design that I had. I have the ability to have different categories. So one category is albums. I could have t-shirts. I could have posters if I wanted for this band, but this is the album category or classification. Clicking in on albums will show me each of the albums that I'm selling. So I have an image, I have a title, and I have a price that are inventoried or available in that Shopify instance. This is that storefront. I don't ever really expose the storefront because that's what I use Muse for. But alternatively, I do have the inventory or my products that I can focus on and manage on the back end of the system. So I've gone in and set that up. And the name of my Shopify store is Nomad Dreamers Fan Site. And then I have individual products. You'll notice that this Americanized product has a name and it also has a number. These are the important elements that you want to have established as you're integrating Shopify within Adobe Muse. So I'm going to be a little lazy here, and I'm just going to copy Nomad Dreamers Fan Site onto the clipboard. And let's kind of take the spooky magic out of the picture here by just starting with a brand new blank web page within Adobe Muse. So here I am on my store, let's say, and I'm starting from scratch. It's gotten pretty darn boring pretty quick. But we're going to jump back to the pretty one once you believe me around how simple it is to integrate the widget. What I'm going to do is go to the cookie directory here. I've got a buy button basic and a buy button. I'm assuming there's more or less capabilities. I also have a Shopify cart that I can work with here. I'm going to go ahead and take the buy button and drag it onto the canvas, and I'll go ahead and let it sit here off on the side. And from here, I have a series of options. Ali Pordelli is asking, what is the name of the product? Well, we saw that. We also saw the store name. So let me go ahead and paste that store name in there. So you'll notice that in grabbing that store name, I didn't get .myshopify.com, just the name of the store. And then from there, I can also grab the product. I believe I can work with the number or the name. I'm just going to use the name because I know that's a unique name in my store. And we'll go back to that Buy Now button, and I'm going to change the product name to be Americanized. Now notice where I have choices here. Button action, I can either add it to the cart, I can open a checkout pop-up window straight away, or I'll open the product page in Shopify. This is where you get to decide how much of your world lives in the Adobe Muse file and how much of it transitions over to Shopify. Depending on, as I mentioned, how often your client is going to be updating inventory, they may just want to live in Shopify. They want to handle all their inventory. They're very competent. And you as a web designer will probably want to heavily design your Shopify template and your static Muse website so that they look pretty seamless together, and you can expose enough of that Shopify experience to satisfy what your client wants. For me right now, I really like that it simply goes in and adds it to the cart. That's enough for what I want it to be. I can also control the text that appears in the button. So I can say, you need me, and change that button text. When I click over, it's going to refresh the text that occurs here. I can control whether or not that button is going to reflect the price. Now remember how we have this beautiful magic going on where Shopify keeps track of my inventory. Shopify determines if I have enough items in stock. It also allows me to go in and do pricing promotions. So if I decide that I want to show that price because I know my price is going to vary based on holidays, promotions, inventory, and such, I can decide to expose that. So I've got the price checkbox here, and I could show its price on the left-hand side. I'm a little stacked on top of myself here, but I can see my album name and its price there on the left now. I can include visual elements like a separator line and how that separator line appears, and then how the text appears as well. If I come back out to my Muse file and just press and drag to give myself a little more room on that button. Now, as I mentioned a little bit, the way the button works is it's really like what in coding terms is known as an iframe. The iframe is kind of a window within a web page. So whenever I'm working with widgets, this will happen quite a lot. If I press and drag, notice I'll see this little spinning indicator. That's because it's grabbing the data literally from the Shopify backend. It's not containing or reflecting data on my design canvas. It's coming from that third-party solution. If I want to see how the work I'm doing actually looks, I can pull down on File to preview the page in the browser. Muse will render the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for that page. And here I have a button. The button has colors and fonts that is controlled there within Adobe Muse. I can see the name of my album, and I can see the price of my album. And if I click to add it to the cart, this is that beautiful integrated cart experience that I really like. Notice on the right-hand side, I get the thumbnail. This is being served up from Shopify. I get a nice interface that allows me to determine how many items I actually work with. I get a price total here. I have the ability to go in and check out. So when I click that checkout, it takes up a little bit more standard Shopify checkout experience. But this is nice. It actually reassures my viewer that they're not entering their credit card details necessarily into my Muse interface, more of a standard Shopify interface here that I can come in and either use a PayPal or a credit card if I have that available to pay with my solution. I can look at what it is that's in my cart. So it's just a nice, robust, interactive shopping experience with transaction gateways that can support many different tax structures, many different countries, many different currencies. Let's go on back over to the site and look a little bit more at the detailed page that I've built out. So we don't really need that guy as much anymore. Notice that I have a different button here. And when I bring up that button, this was actually an older integration. and probably a little bit different for how Ollie's doing the work. Just looking here right now. So this is an older button, and it's got some of those same attributes. I come in and I can define what's the name of my product. Notice that I'm showing a collection. So just to be clear a little bit, there's two different options. Let me go ahead and show them side by side. So I'm going to grab that new buy button from Ollie, and I'll grab and put that on the canvas once again. And let's see if I have some of these details still available. I know it's Americanized, and I know the name of my shop, Nomad Dreamers fan site. And I'll go ahead and pop that in here. And we'll go ahead and let it add that price. And we'll also have it bring up the cart once again. And I'm going to bring these alongside one another. I just want to show you kind of the different approaches you can take. So when I come in and preview in the browser, the first instance that I have shows individual products here. So I've got Americanized, I can see the products. When I click on purchase here, it brings up a pop-up, and the pop-up has the products. This is showing a collection of albums. So it's not showing just the single product, it's showing 4 in this case. I can go and transact or check out in that area there. The other approach I can take is that buy now approach. I'm not sure why my price is not showing up here, but when I click on buy now, let's see, it might be a little tricky. Let's come and look. I might also be creating some nice little conflicts here. I'm going to get rid of the old button just to make sure I'm not wrecking my life here. Go on in. Let's double check my settings. Notice I've got a period there. It could be as simple as I've wrecked that by having that period from the URL. I'm going to go ahead and click back off again, see if that helps. Notice it's rendering again on the canvas. There, I've actually got the price. When I come in and once again preview my site in the browser, I've got that price reflected there. When I click buy now, keep your eye on this right-hand side. Buy now, boom, it adds into the cart. I seem to be buying an awful lot of this single album. I can always go in and clear out my cart, buy it one more time like I mean it. And I could have a buy now button for each of these products. So it's up to you. Notice that in this instance, I've got a hardwired price. So this is actually let me go back to the site so you can see it. This price cannot easily be changed without either me, the web designer, going in and making a change, or perhaps my small business owner using in-browser editing to change that price. But if I know to a large extent the item's price is not going to change, I can style the design a little bit more nicely. So I've got a button here, but I've got that price integrated with that button. I can't style it up quite as much as I can if I have it separate. In the separate instance, I'll have this button that's here, and I'm looking for a bit of a trick here. So with that button, to purchase here, it's going to drive me to that pop-up. All right, I'm going to stop. I've kind of blown through that a little bit quickly. I want to see if we have questions about this as we go along. So what do you have for any outstanding questions? Looks like one Q&A was Marcine saying hi, so that one doesn't count. I'm going to look at chat a little bit, see what's going on. All right. Looks like Ollie's been giving a little bit of back-end information about the accessibility of the Shopify instance with Cookie. That's kind of it. I'm going to show you, again, we'll go back into a couple different things. Let me do this. For the meeting notes in this session, to make sure you've kind of followed everything I've shown you, I have meeting notes. I always do these for jam sessions, but in it, I talk through some of the tutorials. There's a step-by-step tutorial here. There are some templates that have some shopping experiences already built into the Muse template that you can buy. There are a number of sites that I show you as examples that were built directly in Adobe Muse, and then some of the better, more recent designs that I kind of dug up a little bit today. It looks like Susanna is talking about what did you say? WooCommerce. So I know WooFoo. I haven't heard about WooCommerce. It's a good question. So let's say you want to work with a solution and a widget does not exist for it. Let's go ahead and do a little digging around because I'm feeling brash. So let's say it's WooCommerce. I don't know if this is a woo-foo form thing, but let's say there isn't a widget and you want to try to understand how you could use it. So WooCommerce, the best e-commerce platform for WordPress. If that is true, it's probably not a good direction for you to take. WordPress is its own back-end system, its own back-end architecture. Okay, so maybe this is what you're talking about. Muse Express does allow you to use WordPress as a back end with Muse as a front end. But you're saying to yourself as a designer, you need to go to WordPress as a world. So that means you're hosting your own back end WordPress system. If your client is already using WordPress and wants you to build out a nicer UI, a nicer template, a nicer interface, using Muse and Muse Expressed from the Muse Gain folks, the Italians, is a good way to go. Ollie also has a back-end system. I think his back-end CMS is more geared towards blogging, maybe a little lighter on e-commerce. My instinctive suggestion is go with some of the back-end CMS systems initially that have support for e-commerce. A database is a database, but by the time you worry about things like transaction gateways, pricing models, affiliating one product with another, showing large scale views, small views, there's a lot that goes into a good e-commerce solution. You can build it out with one of the flatter CMS systems that are out there. But I would really look to, again, Shopify with Zala. We can come back to the list real quick here just to see what comes up and what we're familiar with. Yes, Ollie's jumping in. Can you use to have a store directly in your site? So Ollie, when you're speaking about something you would have a store directly in your site, are you talking about, what is the back end in that example that you're speaking about? Okay, so I'm going to go back into the e-commerce bucket and we can talk a little bit about pros and cons. I've heard good things about Sellify. I've seen a number of those examples. Some folks just talk about PayPal being a really simple way to work. I know that the website that I manage for my son's rowing team is a PayPal organization. So I use PayPal whenever we're selling anything on the site. You can do some nice integrations. It's not going to, in my experience, be as attractive an integration. The styling for PayPal is not as robust, but if the back end of your client is PayPal, you can always add that PayPal buy button. You can also be complex with PayPal buttons and really organize around how the pricing is handled and what it is that they're buying. And the pop-up, let's say the drop-down can show inventory a little bit. But it's I think, in my experience, it's a little bit limited. Yeah, lots and lots of solutions to go with. Please definitely check out the free stuff that we have, the Shopify instances. And I think the price at $9 a month for Shopify is pretty terrific. I use Shopify myself, not to sell items, but to actually maintain things like the widget directory and site of the day. So that's another important thing to point out is if you're, let me just give you one last sort of scenario here because I think it's meaningful. I do not sell anything on muse.adobe.com. Initially, I had it built out with Business Catalyst because we have our own CMS and I wanted to use our own tools. But Business Catalyst is complex and it's not as easy to use for someone who's occasionally working with a back-end system. So I switched over to Shopify. I worked with some developers to actually build out a template so that my template on Shopify looks like the Muse website. But I do not sell anything. All I do is inventory my product. So I have things like, as I mentioned, site of the day. This is in my Shopify instance. Obviously, there's nothing for sale, but what is in there is thumbnails or a detailed view of a particular site. I have descriptions. I have the ability to come in and sort and filter. So I go in and create categories. So these are all the collections in essence. If you think about it in terms of Shopify terms, I can sort my content. I can look and search for individual words that might be used, perhaps the name of the site or the vendor that provided it. So this is all Shopify products. I do not sell anything. I do not pay anything more than the $9 a month fee to have over 1,000 items in my site of the day and about 1,000 items in my widgets directory. They're just dynamic content that can be filtered and sorted and managed in my Muse site without paying for any sort of transaction gateway whatsoever. So I think really a great inexpensive way to go. I think that we have pretty much covered this guy. Yeah, Mr. Perdelli is agreeing that Shopify is a great price way to go. There are about 100, about 450, 500 employees up in Canada. That's another important point is if you're going to ask your clients to adopt something, you want to make sure someone stays around for a while. We are speaking specifically around shopping carts, but kind of same story is true when you go to doing blogs for your client. Blogging, most of your clients are not bloggers. Why am I not seeing a blog here? Hold on one second. It's because I'm at site of the day. We're going to go to the widget area, and we're going to go in and look at some of the blogging solutions. So the other big area, I think, is clients that want to be able to update their site, sell, if it's Katie's Cafe, she wants to promote individual bakery items from week to week. A very easy way to do that is to add a blogging component to your Muse website that can be easily updated using an external source. For that, I personally love Tumblr. There's iOS apps, there's desktop apps. They allow small business owners, your average user, to capture video, audio content, photos very easily and add it to the blog. You can skin and style the Tumblr blog, or you can inject that content directly within Muse using an RSS feed and skin and style it in that manner. So it's kind of a nice comparable solution when it comes to blogging to what I'm showing you with Shopify for stores. So that's about what I got. You all owe me some ideas for the next jam session in 2 weeks. Let me go over to the topics that we've covered and see, because jam sessions go both ways. You guys have to talk to me as much as I talk to you. We covered Creative Cloud libraries 2 weeks ago. I've dug into responsive and scroll effects. It's like the endless topic that will never go away. I personally am building out that rowing website as a responsive, from the ground up, complicated website, and I'm learning a lot in it. So I probably will circle back with responsive design as a topic again, a responsive card-based flat design methodology, and how to really get your menus and navigation to work. I was on PTO, I was on vacation last week, and as all good employees do on their vacation, I used Adobe Muse and really played around with that implementation. I'm excited to see some of that. But let me know if there are topics that you'd like to cover. Looks like we've got one new message in here. Any updates on third-party widgets updated for Instagram? I don't know. I'm not sure if Ollie has any feedback on that. Let me just look real quick. So I'm going to do what all of you do. Instagram. So there are a lot of Instagram widgets. By my count, you've got 9 of them here. I'm assuming that you don't like any of the widgets that are being provided. So question is, Instagram is keeping it very private. You guys both know something more. Oh, the thing is they stopped working. Well, that's the other hard part about life, is if you are working with dynamic data, the word dynamic sadly means it's dynamic. So if you have a static website, you know that what you publish is going to stay good. If it's dynamic content, whether it's the weather or a Google map, you are somewhat subjected to that third party's APIs, and they're changing those APIs and your need to update content on sites. I would say the good part is that Adobe Muse is very easy to open up, make a change, and republish. If you have good controlled methodology as a designer, you can get in and publish frequently. As I mentioned, I do just the silly rowing website, but I'm in there probably 5-10 times a week making updates and republishing. Muse keeps a manifest, so it's going to remember only the changes you've made and make those updates. But when things like Instagram's APIs change, we're somewhat powerless in the open web to keep that from breaking on your Muse design. So you need to think about that and the type of client that you're working with. Do they have you on a retainer? Are you maintaining the site for them? Or are you going to design it once and then leave it and not go back for years on end because of the nature of your client? If that's true, you want to just be really conscious about how you're adding widgets and integrating content. Looks like there's Anoop is commenting on WooCommerce and WordPress working well for him. It's up to the Shopify folks to determine how they want to extend their APIs to work more closely with sites like Adobe Muse. I think they're serious about it. I mean, what Ali is saying, because in the recordings you can't see the chat, so I'm going to state the obvious here. But Ali's saying that Shopify is very robust. I do trust them a lot. I'm using them, and I think they've been very reliable, consistent. They do change their connectivities, their APIs, from time to time, this sort of buy button, and that's the one that we rely on. All right, you people have not come up with any clever jam session ideas, so it's up to me to come up with something in the next little bit. But thank you for your time, as always. If you want to, you are welcome to, don't spam me, but you can send me email. I'm Dani, D-A-N-I, at adobe.com. Give me feedback. Let me know how your world is going. I do not always respond immediately to everything you send, but do know that we read it and learn from it. I send it on to the team. It's your feedback that keeps us excited about the product. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in about 2 weeks. Please come back again. Okay, bye-bye.